What's up, y'all, man? Looking at the NFL draft, not only seeing what my Chicago Bears, who they were picking. It was it was controversial around the Shsdeur Sanders not being picked in the first round. We all know Mel Kiper had him projected as going. I think Mel Kiper had him projected as going number one overall. And it turns out that Shsdeur Sanders got picked round 5. Now, this is my whole thing about the whole situation. I think people making a big deal about it, and it's something that happens every year in the NFL draft. Guys slip and drop for various reasons, right? Some guys drop because of character issues, some guys drop because of injury, and some guys drop because it's a projection. When we looking at these NFL draft projections, months and months before the actual NFL draft, people have to understand that's people opinions on how they think the draft is going to go. Even a guy like Mel Kiper, who's been doing it for a long time, since I've been watching football since the 80s, he's been doing these mock drafts. And Todd Mache, and then there's some other guys out there. We have to understand these are projections. This is not necessarily how the draft is going to go. Sometimes they have the order, fairly correct, and then sometimes they miss. They miss big, and on this one they missed big. Shsdeur Sanders is when I watch Shsdeur Sanders play, he could play football. He looks like a really good college quarterback. I don't know what he's going to do in the NFL, because we know that just because you are a really good or a great college quarterback like a Tim Tebow, guys of that nature, that doesn't mean that you're going to translate to the NFL. There's a lot of things that go into it that makes a quarterback successful in the NFL. We all know that, right? What the guy is surrounded by, his talent, the offensive line, the skill positions, the organization, how it's ran, and it's just a lot of things. And then if you're a guy like Dak Prescott, if you go look at his last couple years at Mississippi State, he played fairly well, and he played in the SEC, and he got drafted in the 4th round. Joe Montana got drafted in the 3rd round. We all know Tom Brady famously got drafted in the 6th round. Brock Purdy got the quarterback for 49ers, San Francisco 49ers. He was the last pick of the draft. It happens. For a few reasons, the reason why I think Shsdeur Sanders dropped. It's a few reasons, and it's all in the same bucket. All this is it's in this big old bucket of chaos. Number one, we have to remember last year 6 quarterbacks was taken, and I believe 5 was in the 1st round. And teams needed quarterbacks, and the teams that needed quarterbacks last year, they took their quarterback. Fast forward to this year. This year is projected to be the weakest class for quarterbacks, and then next year, led by Arch Manning, possibly, is another, they say, gold mine for quarterbacks. So Shsdeur Sanders is sandwiched in between 2 possible heavy quarterback drafted years. And another thing, guys in free agency, teams picked up their quarterbacks in free agency. So to me, it was only a couple teams out there that I thought probably would take them anyway. I thought Pittsburgh, I thought maybe the Giants, because they have an older quarterback. I thought and Russell Wilson. I thought maybe the Raiders, maybe because it's a relationship there with Shsdeur Sanders and Tom Brady. I believe Tom Brady is his mentor. I believe Tom Brady signed him to his TB12 business. So I thought maybe he would get drafted there. I thought maybe the Saints, because the Saints have David Carr, who's coming off an injury, and David Carr is a pretty good quarterback when he plays, when he's not injured. But I thought he could probably get drafted there with the Saints. Maybe the Giants, Saints, maybe Raiders, Cleveland Browns. So in Pittsburgh. So I was like, okay, if he get drafted to one of those teams, okay, one of those teams need a quarterback. So when I started looking at the draft board, and especially when he didn't get drafted by the Giants, and the Giants traded back in and they took Jackson Dart over him, I was like, okay, he's in trouble. Because if the Giants, who said that they liked Shsdeur Sanders, and I believe he had a workout with them a couple weeks before the draft, if they traded back in and they didn't pick Shsdeur Sanders, then where's he going to get picked at? And I knew Pittsburgh was going to take defense in the first round. I knew Pittsburgh was not going to, if you look at their history, I knew Pittsburgh was not going to take a quarterback that wasn't a consistent number one in the first round. And let me go back to it. Cam Ward, they say on most teams' draft board, if Cam Ward would have came out last year, he would have been the 6th quarterback taken. So that tells you a little something about how they see these quarterbacks coming out this year. If Cam Ward, who went number 1 overall, would have came out last year, he would have been the 6th quarterback taken. So then you know that Shsdeur Sanders, he has to be taken by one of those teams in the first round, or he's going to slide. And when Pittsburgh didn't take him at 21, I started looking at the draft when I'm like, this team don't need the quarterback, this team don't need the quarterback, this team don't need the quarterback. And you got to look at it that the same teams are going to be drafted in round 2. And then Cleveland, they traded out their pick, let Jacksonville come up and take Travis Hunter. And I said to myself, okay, so they did that. Okay, I said what Cleveland is doing, they getting ready for next year crop of quarterbacks. Because now they got 2 first-round picks for next year. Then they can package those picks and probably move up in the draft and take one of those quarterbacks next year. So I was like, okay, they getting ready for that. So I said that takes them off the board. That takes the Giants off the board because they took a quarterback. I said, okay, Pittsburgh will take them in round, maybe they'll take them in the 2nd round. And then Pittsburgh didn't take them again. I said, this man is finna drop. This man is finna drop heavy too. I said, and it may be a possibility that the man don't even get drafted. So it went from him being projected as number 1 by Mel Kiper to possibly not getting drafted, but he ended up getting taken in the 5th round by the Browns, who now have 5 quarterbacks on their roster. They have 5 quarterbacks on their roster. They got Gabriel from Oregon. They got Shsdeur Sanders. They got another cat on their team. I don't know who he is. And they got Deshaun Watson. Everybody knows they got Deshaun Watson, is an anchor around their neck because all his contract is fully guaranteed, which is good for Deshaun Watson, but not good for the Cleveland Browns. And the owner came out and admitted that he made a mistake with that. But that's another story for another day. But it's people all on TV saying that the NFL is mad at Dion, so they taking that on his son. I'm gonna tell you this about sports, and it's always like this. If you can play, they don't care about your red flags. They don't care about that you beat a woman, that you did this, that you did that you had character issues. They don't care about none of that stuff. If your tape shows, if your tape is incredible, if you have talent that's generational, you can be arrogant, you can have some red flags, and they don't care. They're going to take you because they do it every year in the NFL draft. And when you look at Shsdeur Sanders, he doesn't jump off the page. He does nothing special. Yes, he had pretty good completion percentage. Yes, he throws a pretty decent deep ball. He looked like he reads the field pretty well, but it's nothing special. And in the first round, you looking for a day 1 starter, or you looking for something special in a player that you can say he has a lot of potential, and we can potentially unlock that potential that he has. And if we unlock it like a Lamar, if we unlock it like a Lamar Jackson, we can have something. They don't see that in Shsdeur. So him dropping is not a surprise to me. It may be a surprise to a lot of people because y'all was looking at those projections and figuring, okay, this is how the draft is going to go. No, that's not how the draft is going to go. That's somebody's opinion. That's not the opinion of the GMs who's going to be picking on draft day. We have to separate the mock draft from the actual people that's picking in the draft. And I did that about 10 years ago. I stopped. I said, you know what? Yes, it's good to have a barometer of what you think is going to happen in the draft, but this is not necessarily what's going to happen in the draft. This is not necessarily what's going to happen. These teams are going to pick who they want to pick. Some teams reach and pick guys who you don't even think they was going to pick, and some teams trade out, and it's a lot of things that go on draft day. But yeah, so people was just taking it way too far. Mel Kiper, I understand you didn't get it right this time. And a lot of this stuff is people have reputations. Mel Kiper is a highly respected he's probably the most highly respected mock draft predictor. And he had Shsdeur Sanders going number 1 possibly, and he went number 5. So that kind of messes with his I guess his reputation, but it doesn't really, because he don't really know what's going to happen. It's a prediction. It's his opinion. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. But people saying that Shsdeur Sanders, they against him because he's a black man that's arrogant and confident. That's why it happened. Well, Cam Ward was picked. If you hear Cam Ward speak, he's arrogant too. He was picked number 1, a black man, picked number 1 overall as a quarterback. So I don't know why people saying that. And they said that the Shsdeur Sanders put off a lot of teams in interviews with his arrogance. I can see that. Let me say this about Shsdeur Sanders. Shsdeur Sanders, you can be as arrogant as you want. You can have your personality. You can do all that stuff. You can have it all. That's your prerogative. But that doesn't mean other people are going to accept your arrogance. Because when your tape is not, when you don't have that uber talent, and your tape don't jump off the board to these NFL teams and owners and GMs, you can't afford to be arrogant. Your talent doesn't match your arrogance. Your arrogance has to match your talent for you to be like that. And your father was like that. Deion Sanders famously said that the Giants wanted him to take some Wonderlic tests, and he told them, where are y'all going to pick at? They said number 8 or 9 or something like that. He said, well, I'm not going to be there at that time when y'all pick, so I'm not doing that. He said he walked out the room. But Deion Sanders can do that because Deion Sanders' tape and his talent, which was generational, allowed him to get away with that. When teams are okay or lukewarm on you, you can't do that. You can't be arrogant like that. You have to participate in the Senior Bowl. You have to throw at the combine. Work out for any team that wants to work out, want to work you out. Call teams and work out for them, because you don't have that type of talent warrant your arrogance when you walk in the room. Like I said, you got to be a chameleon. I'm not saying be phony, but be a chameleon. Understand what's around you. Understand your environment. You may have to be a chameleon. And okay, understand, when I go up in this meeting with these NFL teams, I can't be off-putting. I can't show all this arrogance in this bravado, because a lot of teams said this. They said that he walked into the room with all this arrogance, and your game doesn't match your arrogance. They looking at your tape, and then they looking at your arrogance, and they saying it doesn't match. And to me, that's a lot of reason why he failed. I don't think it was a collusion with all 32 teams, because what one team won't take, another team will. We didn't take Jalen Carter, right? Remember Jalen Carter had that race when he raced, and one of the coaches and one of the players got killed in the other car that he was racing against. The Bears didn't take him, but the Eagles took him. Tyreek Hill had character issues. Somebody didn't take him, but the Kansas City Chiefs took him. Randy Moss had character issues. Teams pass up on Randy Moss, right? Teams pass up on him, right? But Minnesota Vikings took him. So, but all those players that I named, uber talented. And the film jumped off the page at the teams. And they still took them despite their character issues. Shsdeur Sanders don't even have the character issues that they have. So they still didn't take him high like that. The NFL told Shsdeur Sanders yesterday what they think about him. They think that, yeah, you can play in this league, but you're not what you say you are, and your tape is not what you think you are. Let me know what y'all think, man. I'm out.